plane was diverted here to Green Bay, but it was headed toward Minneapolis. So not sure why it was diverted here or exactly what is going on. We can see the plane here sitting on the runway. We don't see, any emergency slides out or anything like that. And we haven't seen any people, so I don't know if they're already off the plane or what exactly is happening out there. But like I said, we do see several emergency vehicles. We will be monitoring the situation and working to try to get you more information throughout the morning. Back to you. And I spoke with a passenger, a young girl, who told me that the plane originated actually in Houston, Texas, and it had about 250 people on the flight that she estimates. And so it was headed from Houston to Minneapolis. And it was delayed a little bit early on because of mechanical problems. They finally got going. Then they had to divert to Madison for a little while, and then they were finally going to be on their way to Minneapolis. So they took off again from Madison to Minneapolis. We're about to land, circling there, and she told me they were almost about to land, but then they started going back up and took off again because they said it was too slippery there, too icy in Minneapolis to land. So that's how they ended up back here in Green Bay, where they did land here, but it was also icy here, and that plane did slide a little bit off of the runway. So that is why that plane is sitting out there in all the emergency vehicles. Now, as far as we know, as far as that passenger told us, no one was hurt. What they did do is bring in stairs and take people there from the plane, about 60 or so at a time, on buses from the runway back here to the terminal.
Let's get right out to Kristyn Allen, who's been there all morning.
Good morning. We are still here in the baggage claim area here at the Green Bay Austin Straubel International Airport, and passengers are still here waiting. You can see many of them waiting to get their luggage. They were on that flight that started off in Houston and was headed toward Minneapolis. They're waiting to get their baggage so that they can be bused back to the Minneapolis area or take a flight later today. I did just speak with the director of the airport, and he confirms that they're investigating exactly what happened and caused the airplane to slide off the runway. If you take a look at this video we have earlier, you can see that plane sitting on the runway. It's a 737. Passengers tell me they estimate there was about 250 people on board, and the airport director told me it slid about 250 feet off of the runway into a field area. So he also told me that earlier overnight, around the time that plane come in, there were crews here that were treating the runway and said they use sand here, not salt, because salt is corrosive. So they use sand to treat, and they were doing that, earlier overnight. So they will be investigating to figure out what exactly the cause is. And he did confirm that no one was hurt. Passengers say that this flight, it started off in Houston, Texas, was headed toward Minneapolis, tried to make a first attempt to land in Minneapolis, and that didn't work because of conditions. So they turned around, they landed in Madison, they waited there for 45 minutes, made another attempt, so headed back to Minneapolis. We're almost ready to land, and then the plane went up again, and that's how they got diverted here in Green Bay. And when they landed, that's when the plane slid off the runway. And take a listen here. You can hear one passenger describe what it was like.
You could kind of tell the difference between the runway and the ground. We were slowing down, but then you could feel kind of the brakes not have any more traction, and we continued off the runway into the field. It was a pretty scary experience, I'd say, but they turned the lights on and just made sure everyone was okay after.
Right now, many of those passengers, as I said, still waiting to get to their final destination. Some of them say they've been up for more than 24 hours, very weary, a very long night and early morning of travel. They say they just want to get home. The airport director says that plane is still sitting on that portion of the field. It is sitting upright because the ground is frozen, so it's not sinking in the mud or anything, and that will be removed later today. Back to you guys.
Live in Brilliant right now to show us some of the worst flooding.
Good morning. Yeah, we've been moving around quite a bit, but we're still hanging out in Brilliant, one of the areas that seems to be taking quite a bit of the brunt of this flooding here. So we are on South Parkway Drive near Horn Park, and if you take a look here behind me, you can see all this water here. Now, I admit I'm not very familiar with this area, so my photographer and I had to look on a map when we first got here to kind of see what's what in this landscape here. So on a map, it appears that there is a stream or a pond that runs through this area here, but obviously it's not this large. So that the rain has flooded out the pond and the stream that runs through here as far as we can tell, because you can see now how far this water spills out over onto the banks. It's past this person's mailbox right here. It's stretching back here far into the park, not too far from the water in the distance. You can see soccer nets, so we know that water's not supposed to be there. And if you actually look here behind me, you can see it spills, over the sidewalk here. And you can see all the water over this part of the roadway as well. And if you look a little bit further to the side here, look at all that water over there on that parking lot. Definitely not supposed to be water there. And actually you can just see all this water. It's rushing over the roadway, rushing. You can see it just moving through that parking lot here. So a lot of flooding here this morning. We've actually seen some cars attempt to drive down this road here and pass this water. Definitely not something that you want to do. Water on roadways is very dangerous and not something to be taken lightly. Now that it is lighter outside, you can see the roads that are flooded a little bit better. When we were driving around earlier this morning in the Hilbert area, it was very dark out, very rural area, and sometimes we wouldn't see water on the road until we just turned down a street and it was right there and you have to turn back around. Now you can see it better, so you definitely want to be alert that it is out there this morning as you're heading out the door. Reporting live in Brillion, Kristyn Allen, Action 2 News.
Kristyn Allen is live in Brillion right now with the conditions there. Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, we are still hanging out in Brillion this morning. We are on South Parkway Drive, and as you can see, it is raining very hard here in the area right now. It's picked back up again, but if you take a look behind me, you can see all this water here that is on the roadway and also pouring over into this parking lot area there. But I want to show you over here where all of that water is coming from. We're coming back over across South Parkway Drive, the street here, and you can see all the water over the roadway. Well, if you're taking a walk over here with us, take a look at all this water now. I admit that I'm not very familiar with this area, so when my photographer and I first got here, we looked on a map to kind of see what the landscape was like, and it appears that there is a pond in this area, but I assure you it's not this large. All the rain and everything has caused it to flood, so you can see just how expansive it is. Going back here, passing these trees, and further back, this is near Horn Park, so there's actually water that isn't that far away from soccer nets, and I think I can see some soccer nets further in the distance that are in the middle of this water here, and surpassing the water comes past this mailbox here too on the side of the road. So it really gives you just an idea of what people here in Brillion and in Calumet County are dealing with this morning. A lot of rain, a lot of water, a lot of standing water on the roadways. So do keep in mind that if you're heading out and about in Calumet County today, that you could be encountering some water on the roadways, and to definitely take it easy. Reporting live in Calumet County, Kristyn Allen, Action 2 News.
Our Kristyn Allen is live in the Fond du Lac area right now to show us the conditions.
Good morning. Yeah, the rain has eased off here in Fond du Lac this morning, but take a look here behind me, and this is the big task that city crews have been working on. They've been working to pump water out of the drainage system. I just spoke to them, and they said they were pumping water from out of the sanitary and into the sewer system here. There have been crews all scattered throughout the morning here in Fond du Lac doing this. Right now we are at Park and First Street, and so they were going at it a little bit just a short time ago, but they stopped. They said they needed to measure and see where they are before they either wrap up here or continue to pump some more water. But they say this is really being proactive about it. They're being prepared in case we do get more rain again later this afternoon. Of course, we got a lot overnight, and there were some reports of standing water in Fond du Lac earlier this morning. That has all subsided, but to be proactive about it and keep flooding from happening again, that's why there's crews out pumping water, and they were doing it all throughout the morning earlier. There were crews all throughout the city pumping water in the middle of the morning during that rain when it was coming through. And also there were some reports earlier. We saw a little bit of standing water on Highway 41 as well, and there were officers out there trying to watch traffic and keep them from getting into the standing water and slowing traffic down a little bit as well. For now, though, it seems as though most of the standing water in the city is gone, but crews are being prepared in case any flooding should happen again later today if more rain does come through. Reporting live in Fond du Lac, Kristyn Allen, Action 2 News. Good morning. We are here in Sawyer Park, just across from the granary, and it isn't officially on the move yet. There's a lot of prep work and things that need to happen before that thing gets going. So I'm going to walk over here to Pat Drury with Drury Designs, and you're involved in kind of facilitating this big move. So tell us a little bit about what's happening right now.
Well, right now the most important thing is have to get the high power lines down. So ATC is the one that handles the lines.
Okay.
MJ Electric's contract to take those down. So they're killing the power lines, and then once those are down, then we'll start rolling the granary onto the bridge.
So what's the next step? What are you doing here to get it, right where it needs to be on the street here? I see there's the streets already blocked off here. What's the steps to get it moving?
Okay, well, we got here about 3:30. Worked with the chief of police, Chief Porter, blocked off the roads, keeping everybody safe, blocked off the sidewalks. You got to be really careful on where people can sneak in to see this thing as it rolls across the bridge. So I anticipate a pretty good crowd. It looks like it's going to be a pretty good showing today. So the people in Sturgeon Bay are really excited about saving this old building.
Yeah, you have some experience moving some, historical buildings. How big of a job is this to move a building this big, over a bridge? You're dealing with, power lines and, just how do you do that?
Well, there's a lot to it. Devoot house movers who we're working with, they're originally from Green Bay, but they're from New Jersey. They've been fantastic, so they've helped me a lot. As a general contractor, I've done a lot of different things, but nothing quite to this scale. This is our second granary. Our first granary is home to a restaurant called Blue down in Ledgeview, and that was a stick frame, so we could tear it down and restand it. The way this is built with the bins, if it was tore down, you couldn't restand it. So it's really good that we saved it the way we are with moving it. To roll it across the bridge, it's been a daunting task, but everybody's been really good to work with, and now actually sort of the easy part, because all the hard work's done, all the approvals are met, so I'm excited to see it roll.
All right, well, thank you so much for chatting with us and giving us some
thank you very much.
perspective. We appreciate it. We'll be here throughout the morning, keep an eye on things and letting you guys know how it's going. Back to you. So you said you went to mostly all the city council meetings, a lot of them when there was kind of a battle going on to save this. What do you think it means to the city to continue to have this here?
I think in terms of understanding your future, you have to also be able to appreciate and understand how the past has been. And it's interesting, we're standing here in Sawyer Park. The pavilion over here was where one of the first public meetings was held, trying to get public input in terms of the future of the site here. And of course, eventually it was decided the granary would be moved.
Yes, and here everyone is today to watch it on the move. Well, thank you so much for chatting with us. We appreciate it, and we'll keep you guys updated throughout the morning on what's going on here. Back to you guys.
Story we've been following all morning. Right now, the historic granary building in Sturgeon Bay is trying to make its move across the shipping channel to its new location.
It's 68 feet tall and it has to cross the Oregon Strait Bridge, and we've been following this story since fall when the city's fire chief ordered that it be torn down, saying that the building is unsafe, and that led to city leaders and others in the community battling over saving the building or tearing it down. Ultimately, city council voting to preserve the building but move it across the ship channel to Graham Park, and it is on the move now this morning. Let's go live back to Kristyn Allen to see what's happening.
Good morning. Well, the granary it is on the move still. I think they took a brief pause. You can see it here behind me. It is coming up just to the Oregon Strait Bridge, and I'm joined this morning by Councilperson Kelly Caterazoli. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. You've been really involved in this process. Tell us a little bit about what it's like to finally see it being moved and know that it's going to be saved.
It's a relief. It's a little bittersweet. Would have loved it to stay where it was, but so grateful that it has a home in similar context close to the water, and I'm just relieved.
What do you think it means to the city to have it, continue to be here at least in some fashion?
Oh, it's really important. It's part of the city's history and identity, and if you keep losing those structures and things that represent your past, your city loses its identity and you become Anywhere USA. So it's just very important to have this icon here.
Tell us a little bit about, we were chatting, I thought it was real interesting. What is it like on the inside? Can you describe it to us?
Sure, so what you see moving here is actually the grain bins. So it's the top, I'll say 2/3 of the building. And there's 19 grain bins in there, and then in the center there was a small hand-pulled elevator to get through the middle of them. So this is very solid. It is not falling apart. It's built well. And then on the bottom, that will be reconstructed. Okay, so when it gets into its new location, that's going to be kind of barn style. Our beams, 12 by 12 beams were taken out, and it's much more open on the lower level.
Well, thank you so much for chatting with us this morning. We appreciate it. The goal is to have this all wrapped up by 11 o'clock this morning, to have it over the bridge and its new home. And then at that point, there will be a little celebration there near the granary to celebrate that. Back to you guys.